What's up, my witches? It's me, Luna, and decided to hop on here today to have a little chat. I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday, and we were talking about Ascension. There's an awful lot being talked about Ascension. In my readings, I'm getting all these cards. You've arrived here to help with the Ascension at this time, and so I think it's important to talk about it and think about what that really means in practical terms, because you know me. You don't have a Pluto-Mercury conjunction in Virgo on your midheaven without getting practical about things. Anyhow. And I was also thinking about how, there's a lot of wordplay in our current era that borders on the woo-woo, kind of like, emotion, meaning energy in motion. And some of these are really informative. I like that one in particular. And I was thinking about ascension, and it's like, what does it mean to ascend? Or maybe it's ascend. Maybe you're getting ascended by the universe. Or you're about to ascend into something because you won't see what's in front of you. Anyway, har har. So I thought I would illustrate this with a story, a personal story. So I will start by saying that in another development in this summer of boom, full on, it is looking like my husband is going to need open heart surgery. We have an appointment next week with the surgeon, but they, with his heart attacks, they discovered that his heart was already growing vessels around the blockages. He's got 100% blockage in the back, 80% on one side. And so they did physical therapy, strenuous physical therapy to help that process, help his body grow more vessels. It has not progressed the way they were hoping. So we're walking towards that. Anyhow. And, the doctor told him, don't do any more than you're already doing, and just, So over the weekend, we have a couple groups of, it's the same group of friends, couple different families that have these amazing all weekend camp out if you want to, music, food, euchre, just wonderful, wonderful companionship and friendship and lots of laughs. And so we look forward to these every year, and one of them is, middle of August, and one of them is Labor Day weekend. And so this one was coming up this past weekend, and it was going to be 90 degrees and sunny both days, which I just can't do. I just can't. There's no, I'm to the point now where there's no, dithering about it, and can I know I can't, particularly with where I am this summer. So, it was pretty much agreed in the beginning that neither one of us was going to be able to go, because if you have a heart condition, high heat is not a good thing to be in. And he was supposed to play that day. He plays blues harp, with his buddy, and had already called and said, I'm not going to be able to play. And that's the way it was. So I went and got stuff to make wonderful food for those of us who would be missing out this weekend, and made salsa and guacamole and tortillas to have fish tacos, and I was very excited about this. So the kids went on Friday, and the kids went on Saturday, and then Cliff and I had thought maybe we'll go out in the evening to hear Ian play, and it'll start cooling down and everything. But before it even got to evening, my body was saying, no, don't do it. I was feeling like I was getting sick. So I'm like, well, I won't be able to. And Cliff said, yeah, I'm going to go out for a little while. Well, he ended up playing for, 40 minutes or so, and I'm always sad to miss that. And then, before he went out, he had to, and this is like a 20-minute drive to get there. He had to drive and get my daughter and bring her home because she was feeling the effects of heat. So it's like, well, that for sure I can't do it. So he went out and, had a good time and came home, and my daughter and I had shrimp tacos, which, so good. Anyway, so the following day, all three of them were going to go out. And I said, okay, I want to make fish tacos tonight. And, I'm working on the premise that another long hot day wasn't going to be a long hot day. So I said, I'm making fish tacos for dinner. Everybody said, yeah, okay, 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 and I'll make more tortillas, and which is a job of work. And then about 5, and mind you, I'm feeling, like I'm catching a cold. I do have a mild cold right now. Mild. Thank you. Anyway, 5 o'clock, I went down, made another batch of tortillas, and it was one of those where couldn't get anything to land flat on the pan because I was doing it totally wrong. I'm learning. Anyway, struggled through those, and then about 6, I'm like, okay, are they coming? I got the fish thawed out. Finally, at 7:30, I sent a group text and said, I'm waiting to make dinner, but I assume you guys already ate. And my daughter was the only one that answered and said, yeah, we had burgers. And I'm like, okay. And then let me preface this by saying, your natal chart is your default setting. It is the circumstances into which you are born and what you experience over the first 28 years of your life, and those experiences are what set up your beliefs about yourself, about life, about how other people are, all that stuff, right? So when we get clobbered, we tend to revert to our default settings. My default settings, T-square with Sun at the apex, Neptune at one end, Mars at the other. Sun-Neptune squaring from the 12th house is, I'm not worthy. I am a piece of shit. I'm inferior. Everyone's better than me. And way self-pity. Oh, way self-pity, right? Poor fucking me. My default setting is also that Pluto, Mercury, obsessive grinding, worry, grind in Virgo, opposing my Pisces moon, which is also poor me. Look what's happened to me in the past. Look at what, So, and the Pluto Mercury thing is also, I'll get you. I'll get you. So I went into this spiral of spite and self-pity and righteousness. How dare they? And my feelings were so very hurt. So I put the fish away. I put the tortillas away. I think I had like one piece of Greek pizza and some raisin bran. They came home at 11 o'clock, which tells me they were having a marvelous time. And while I'm going through this, I'm going, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. This isn't any fun for me. We tend to I tend to look at who I'm blaming and why they are so wrong. This is when you get hooked. This is what the Tibetans call shenpa. Hooked. Hooked into this, I'm right, they're wrong, and here's all the reasons why. So, by the time they came home, I was up in bed, and my husband came up and said hi, and I just asked why nobody texted to let me know they weren't coming home for dinner, and he kind of went sorry and went downstairs. So got up the next morning and did my morning read, and I don't think I need to go into that, but it was really about how do I raise this vibration. So here's what Ascension is about. It's not something that happens to you. I think when we hear all this stuff, and I haven't been watching any of it, just so you know. So everybody else could be saying this too, and I'll give them that credit certainly. But I know that just the way things are couched and the way they're expressed, it tends to come off as Ascension is something that's going to happen to us. And we're waiting for it. We're here to assist in the Ascension by, raising the vibe, doing all this stuff. But let's get practical about that. where it counts. I mean, you can do all the woo-woo, floaty, I feel so blissful stuff all day long, and that's wonderful. That's putting a higher frequency out there that people can attune to. Please don't stop doing that. And where the rubber meets the road is when we have dropped back into our default settings of self-protection and coddling, and righteousness. That one's a tough one. Ooh, and spite and just retribution and grievance. Ascension happens in that moment when you choose not to act out of that. When you choose to alter that frequency in yourself. Because we can put out higher vibrations into the universe and they're just there, for people to pick up if they're able. But when you really change a vibration and change a frequency within yourself, that is when ascension happens. When I'm feeling that, and you know what? When you're in it, when you're in that righteousness, it feels good. It feels good to be right. And it's painful not to be right. Right? It hurts to go, ooh, this is low. This is low stuff. This is not my best self. This is not my ascended self. This is not the truth of my spirit. This is the truth of my experiences and my beliefs about them that have yet to be transmuted, that have yet to be assimilated, truly learned, transformed. So that to me now is what ascension is about. And for me, it happened in that moment when I said to myself, I don't want to feel like this. This isn't fun for me. Rather than just pointing it at somebody, it's not fun for me, but I'm making it not fun for you. So I know all you Plutonians know. I had to stop and go get some water. The fire of the spirit's drying out my mouth. So, and this is why it really is essential to get a good astrologer to look at your natal chart and to know what those default settings are. And, I realize that it's very easy then to look at that chart and see, the conflicts in it and the trials in it and the lessons waiting to be learned. And see that as, here's why I have a right to my victimhood. Here's why I have a right to my grievance. This is what happened. And, that Pisces moon of mine and that Pluto Mercury thing are immutable signs, which throws me into the past. Mutable is past oriented. So immediately I go back into my victimhood and my grievance. And ascension is about me choosing to look at that chart differently and to see the gifts that come in with that and to step out of that righteousness. Now, being right is one thing, but I invite you to look at right in terms of being right, in being right with yourself, being in alignment, being in congruity with your purpose here, which is going to be defined by your sun. Well, it's defined by your whole chart, but coming into alignment with yourself. And self-ascension means recognizing when you are sinking to those default settings. And, many default settings are positive. Those are your trines and your sextiles. But sinking into those default settings that came from trauma and conflict and that lead you into trauma and conflict and that activate when you are in trauma and conflict. and looking at those and saying, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to, sometimes you have to recognize the toxicity in those belief systems, the behaviors that go with them, behavior of isolation, the behaviors that you learned through trauma. And those behaviors will be delineated in that natal chart. But then you can look at your progress chart to see where you are now and how you are redeeming those qualities, how you are kind of, leaning into other meanings associated with those, other potentials with those energies. When you choose not to, I don't even know how to say it, I've said it, not to operate from the lowest frequency, that is what Ascension is about. Okay, so I have a deck here that was calling to me last night and gave me quite a reading this morning. And this comes with blessings to Catherine, Silver Spiral Tarot. This is Tarot of the She. What a great deck. And I'm just going to do us a 3x3 plus 1, because why not? I haven't done us readings for a while. And I miss it, and I miss you. And feels good. Also, I want you to notice that this is my hair one day past when it needs washed, when it's dirty. I deserve this gift. I really deserved this gift of looking at in the mirror and going, I love my hair. Okay. So, what do you have to tell us about Ascension? Oh, they really... Okay. I'm going to stop right there because they just don't want to do it. All right. We have Warrior 10, the Great Task. We have the Star, talk about Ascension, and the Elder. Look at the majors coming out. The Tower. Warrior 8, Dragonflight. And the Dancer of Water. That's an ace. Maker 10, this was in my morning's reading, and it says Kingdom Prospers. Number 4, the Emperor. And Warrior 4, Foundations Blessed. Okay. Right in the middle, Warrior 8, Dragonflight. Dragonflight, ascending, right? How do we ascend in practical terms? This one, amongst all these majors and aces, 10s here, is practical. It's a minor, so day-to-day things, and it is talking about how we take flight. And the warriors are the wands, they're fire, so it is our passion and our purpose to take flight in this lifetime, to rise up out of the base, the default, the root chakra and the sacral. Root chakra being survival, and sacral being emotions, those foundational earth and water places. Okay. So the great task is to ascend to our star self, star being that inspiration and hope and that angelic vibration. This is our great task, and it's our burden. Look at him standing there. He's got, these people on his shoulders. I think I'll read the little verses that go with these, but I'm going to go intuitively first. This deck is so amazing. So we've got sun and moon, and we've got these people, and this person here holding it all up, holding up this bridge. So our great task is to be a gateway and a bridge from our lower self into our higher self. The body is what brings us into the dense vibrations to begin with. When we're pure spirit, we don't deal with this crap. So the body is what imposes time and space. on us. Otherwise, we are formless, timeless, spaceless, you know. So this is the burden that we carry, how to travel from the base into the higher levels of the star. And the elder talks about the ancestors that have gotten there before us. This is like in Buddhism when you take refuge, you're acknowledging everybody that managed to get there before you, and that tells you that it's possible, and it also tells you how. So the elder says, please go to your sources of wisdom. Please, Pema Chodron, yes, especially about this particular thing, how to pull your own ass out of those baser feelings and decide, I'm not going to swim in that muddy pond. I'm going to rise up. And I'm thinking too, my morning read this morning from the Froude's Fairies, Las Gunna, was the central one, and she talks about exploring in the murky waters to see what treasures are there. So you can spend time as long as you recognize what's going on. That's what's going to bring awareness. If you spend time just being in them and making yourself right, that's when you're lost. But if you spend time in them going, what can I find from this? Yes, this is my default, and really acknowledging to yourself how not fun it is to be there. So you go to your sources to help you recognize when you are there and to give you some tools and some skills to start transforming and moving out of that place, or just looking at that place differently. Then we have the Tower, Dragonflight, and the Dancer. Okay. Wait, I'm going to read these three first. Okay, Warrior 10 says, who thinks of the sacrifice as they cross? Who weeps for knowledge of the bridge's loss? He knows the task is worth the pain. His suffering is for a greater gain. Responsibility, greater good, spiritual mission, sacrifice, burdens. So, responsibility. You take responsibility for those experiences in terms of it's time for me to learn from them and raise the vibration, rise from them. The Star. I have seen you so often cast your eyes above in search of my light. I love the way this deck speaks directly to you. In search of hope and answers in the dark. Look but within, and you may find your own sweet candle of radiant light, eternal as any star in the infinite sky of self. So that is saying, where do you find the answer here? Where do you find salvation? Where do you find the guiding light out? I am the mirror of your beauty. I am the substance of your soul. I am the six-fingered messenger of the light, and I see hope in your darkest secrets. Burn brightly, starseed, shine true. Do not hide the rare beauty that is your talent, and do not fear your own divinity. I am the truth that remains when the tower falls. I am hope and I am healing. No cloak can hide my brilliance, and I am here to show you that you too can shine. Within and through my eyes, you pass into your true inheritance. We are one, we are all, we are divine. Beauty, hope, divinity, spirit, love, compassion, healing, connection, talent, eternity, inspiration, beauty. This is also what healing looks like. And as you go through this again and again, because these are patterns that repeat, you always come back to that default setting because it's what you're here to work out, right? Each time you come back and each time you recognize, it takes you a shorter time to recognize where you are. And you can revert, it's not just a straight thing like that. You can always go back. And sometimes the hits are so hard that it's impossible to rise in that moment. However long it takes you to get there is however long it takes you. So no judgment there. And the way she's saying, I am the truth that remains when the tower falls. So here's the tower saying that, this shakes us to our core. And also that when we choose to change our vibration, it can shake the world around us and rock the routines and stuff that have been built on our old behaviors. And I will say the end of the story is that after I did my morning read and worked my way through it, Cliff came up and we talked it out. And, I was able to express that, I went into the weekend with the premise that neither one of us was going to be going, and then plans changed, and I felt left out and my feelings were hurt. And he acknowledged and apologized, and we cleared that. And then I went in and talked to my kids about, the conversation we just had. And the conclusion was that I was miserable when they were younger, miserable at letting them know what was going on. And I realized that, I never had somebody tell me, hey, here's what we're doing today. And I'd be talking to my husband about it. We'd be talking, and I guess I just assumed the information was filtering to them, or they were listening, but they weren't. And they only listen when you don't think they are, or you don't want them to, is the thing there. But, times when it would be, okay, we're getting ready to go. Where are we going? So I acknowledged my old behavior, that I was really bad at that, and that a good thing for all of us would be when we're going into like our birthday weekends, or we're going to, a big event, when anything is happening and we're planning something, that we sit down and say, what would you like to happen? What do you expect? So we can talk over our expectations and then plan, so we're all on the same page and pointed towards the same or similar things, or we work out how we can coordinate, each one's needs and wishes. So that was the, the resolution, which was something I did not grow up with, discussion and resolution. There was no communication in my house. There was manipulation, lots of it. So this is my default setting. That's what I grew up with, was the emotional manipulation. There's that Pluto moon thing again, right? So this was me being able to go into my deep past and go, ooh, here's what I was really bad at for a while, and I acknowledge that and I apologize for it, and here's how we can move forward much better. But the foundations can get shaken when one person in a toxic system, and my family is not a toxic system and hasn't been for a long, long time. But when one person chooses to rise, it kind of shakes the whole thing apart. And the tower, the positive reading of the tower is an old calcified system that is breaking apart because it's been outgrown. It no longer serves. So this is a necessary process to taking flight and to ascension. And then the dancer is a new emotional beginning. The Ace of Water. Okay, the Tower. I am the burning, lightning truth of your innermost divine soul. Yeah. Strip away, blow away the empty masks of forgetfulness and know your sacred truth. Your high frequency, your high vibration. From my eyes, illusion is burned away. From my voice are ripped all lies. From my heart is torn all distrust, freeing the wings of my ascension. Shit. I stand in the cosmos as one born into a new life. The comforting bandages of the old are scorched to oblivion. I know the pain of loss, and through that pain I find my greatest gift. I find my soul, my truth, my strongest foundation. The spark becomes a blazing fire as the ego weeps at its demise. The ego is the false self. The ego is the self that is created in order to filter and protect. And when we can ascend, so that's another thing of ascending beyond the ego into the true self. Let's see, where are we at? Follow me beyond the sorrow and find the startling vision of your own eternity. Revelation, truth, destruction, breakdown of ego. That's what a dark night of the soul is. It's when the ego starts to die off. Foundation, soul, liberation, deconstruction, raw power, challenge. And then warrior 8. Oops. Hello, Emily Carding. This is such an amazing deck. Okay. Oops. Swifter than an arrow, I, racing fearless through the sky. Fire runs in my noble veins. Who else can hold the dragon's reins? Rapid progress, swift messages, news, travel, rushing spontaneity. Whoosh, when we allow the old to crumble, when we willingly take a sledgehammer to those old beliefs and mindsets, to those default settings that have kept us imprisoned, we naturally rise without effort. Okay, the dancer, water. Then we're born to the realm of water, the waves and floods of the moon's daughter, the graceful dancer, full of feeling, whose mirror is the grail of healing. Expression, purity, emotion, universal love, healing, spirit, blessing. Okay, then we've got Maker 10, kingdom prospers, and the emperor, foundations blessed. So what happens here is a new practical, grounded way of being. The makers are earth. This is the 10 of earth. The kingdom prospers. So it's like when we can move. I'm just watching the hummingbirds out there, you guys. There's one sitting on the branch. You know, this wall of green leaves, and I can just see the little movement. And there he sits, flashing his little throat at me, his red throat. Okay, so when we have done lots and lots and lots of healing work and we hit an episode like this, it doesn't mean we go back to square one. This talks about the process of clearing away some vestiges that are in the way of this happy, prosperous kingdom that we have built and the healing we've already done. So we don't have to feel like we've lost everything that we gained. That, oh no, now I'm back where I started again and it's all just for nothing. It's not black and white like that. When we can clear the latest episode, we pull the curtain back so we can see where we truly are, that we have our family around us, our resources, our foundation, our feet on the ground, and that's what the Emperor is about too. 4 square. And we come into that power too, that power and authority, that sense of, wow, I can do this. It's down to me. There's that responsibility again. It is down to me. The state of this kingdom is down to me. The buck stops here. That's the Emperor. I am the ultimate authority. When I take responsibility and I use all the tools and resources available to me, then we have Warrior 4 here. Look at 4-4. We have Warrior 4, foundations blessed. Okay. All right, let me read these. Maker 10. The crown was forged by Maker King, and to him fortune's gifts we bring. For all will flourish in this land under our noble leader's hand. So look at this king and this emperor. Wealth, stability, not so easily knocked off. When we go fully into our shit each time, we get ass-ended. Then we do get knocked off our foundation. But as we meet that moment again and again and again, and it takes less and less time for us to recognize that we've been caught in that righteous thing, we gain stability. We're no longer so fearful of being knocked off our feet. Community, inheritance, ancestry, roots, fellowship. Okay. The Emperor. I am the firm hand that tames creation's chaos. I am the ever virile seed, the fruits of cultivation. I am discipline, I am structure. I am the glorious kingdom and its leader. This is structure too, the elder. This is more the structure of nature. This is more the structure we build. That's new to me. Okay. I am the glorious kingdom and its leader. I am fire's form, the radiant halo of luminescence. You may know my protection, but those who cross me will feel my wrath, for I am the Father, Emperor of all. Through me all things find substance. In my name comes the harvest. The teeming, it's through the goddess that things find substance. Anyway, the teeming wildness of life may be made to serve my will. All obey me, fear me, love me, for I am the genesis of civilization. I would mold you into your true self. Take my path, and you may inherit my kingdom. Structure, control, authority, yang, male fertility, power, civilization, fire, discipline, fatherhood, patriarch. So all of that, this is the rebuilding here. Then we have Warrior 4. And this is where we get the choice of what we rebuild. Now we have all the resources of the kingdom. How are we going to restructure and rebuild in light of our own ascension? All right. The gate becomes a hearth, a home, no need for ever being alone. They celebrate the inner fire, joyous love that will never tire. Foundations, celebration, engagement or marriage, plans for future, and we can look to the future. And our last one here is Dreamer Queen, gift of reason. There's a little fly or gnat buzzing around here, so I shan't kill it while you're watching. I shan't kill it at all. Her throne is knowledge, true and just, and yes, gift of reason. Her mind is all that she will trust. A blade as sharp as any sword, and solitude is her reward. Independence, knowledge, cynicism, research, harsh truths, intelligence. So this too is the Dreamer Queen is the air of water. We're talking about no longer just being solely in the emotional realm, that we can bring clarity. So when we go through these things, it does bring us some intellectual clarity, that when the emotional wave comes and threatens to take us under, or even if it does, we can find that moment of, oh wait, this is a pattern. I don't need to do this again. Or here's what I bring to this now. Here's the clarity, the skill, because those swords are also skill. The dreamers are swords. What skills do I now have? The skills of mind, the skills of intellect, the skills of recognition and clarity to work my way through the emotions. And we must work our way through the emotions. That night I came up and did the Donna Eden thing of, rushing that anger energy through your body so I could clear the emotions. So, because you can't carry that burden, you have to process. We know this. So yeah, here's the deal. 2, 3, 4, 4 majors, 4 fours, or 2 4s, 2 10s, an ace and a queen. And so, I don't need to go farther into that. Anyhow, I'd love to know what you think. I really would. I wanted to share what I got out of all this. And I know we're all going through just woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So to sum it up, really, in the times that we're living in, Ascension isn't about all of humanity waiting for the rapture. And that ain't it. The Ascension is, and I'm understanding right now that there's a whole different meaning to the rapture, which is a whole lot about what I'm talking about. Anyway, the whole thing is the ascension of humanity, as with everything, depends on the individual, depends on the ascension of the individual. When individuals take on the work, accept this charge of raising your vibration in this lifetime, of not reverting to your default settings every time, of not acting out every time you get hit. By each of us individually rising, we get to a tipping point where then that starts being reflected in the outer. It's the 100th monkey thing. You know, when we hit a certain critical mass of skill in individuals, it starts to spread to others. Like, I don't know, through quantum energy, I don't know, that mechanism, you know, it's a spiritual thing, it's a magical thing. But it takes each one of us taking on this task for ourselves. You're not being selfish working on yourself. It's essential. It is essential for the ascension and not the ascension. Not the ass ending into everybody else. So anyway, I hope you got something from that. Please comment below. I'd love to read your comments, and I hope to see you again soon. This has been 42 minutes. Holy crap. Anyway, until I see you again, so many blessings to you. This is Luna. Blessed be.